What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of The Moment, the new mockumentary film about Charli XCX playing a fictionalized version of herself. This film premiered back at Sundance just last month and is now getting a full release from A24. And The Moment is very much in concert with the previous era of Charli XCX's career. Of course, that would be the release of Brat in 2024, her landmark album from a commercial sense, from a mainstream sense. Of course, I spoke at length about that album and how much I liked it. That was my album of the year in 2024. I have been a long-time Charli XCX fan. Previously, I've seen her live, and Brat was the moment where everyone else got on board but Charli. I think The Moment is particularly interesting for people that have been following Charli's career and the arc of her career and her popularity in particular, because it's really directly commenting on a lot of aspects of Charli's career. As a mockumentary film, I really appreciated the meta commentary of The Moment. I think Charli XCX is able to genuinely and intelligently reflect on the Brat era of her career from 2024 and speaks to that mainstream attention and acceptance and adulation in a really intelligent way, given her previous countercultural, more independent style fandom. Charli plays a fictionalized version of herself in the film, but it feels very similar to what we know about her career and her persona. The true gem, though, of The Moment has to be Alexander Skarsgård, who's having the time of his life playing this music film director who effectively takes over the production of Charli XCX's Brat tour from a visual and aesthetic perspective and completely changes the energy and the goals of what Charli is often attempting to communicate on stage. It lends itself to a lot of funny moments. Ultimately, the film is very arch and self-aware, and it comes across as a really fitting footnote to everything that Brat accomplished, especially given Charli's clear sonic pivot with the Wuthering Heights soundtrack coming out next week. Also, to her credit, Charli XCX is a pretty good actor. Like, she's just a great showman, and it seems she's pretty effortless to play herself, right? But I think there's just a lot of fun meta commentary. Like, if you're a fan of hers and you see how far she goes, right? Like, there's a lot of direct nods at the composition of her more traditional fandom, right? Obviously, she's a favorite of the LGBT community. She's a favorite of club people, of drug users, right? Charli XCX's use of cocaine is directly referenced in the film, just like it is in her music in real life. I think there's just a lot of nuggets there. I love the way the film kind of manufactured a crisis, a controversy affecting Charli, and is able to play off of that into a lot of funny other real life people doing stuff for the movie, right? With Charli getting dragged by people like Bowen Yang and Anthony Fantano and Rachel Sennett, who also plays a version of herself in the movie. Pretty funny cameo from Kylie Jenner in the middle. I also quite appreciated towards the beginning of the film where we hear the Club Classics remix from the Brat Remix album, which to my count is still completely underappreciated as a truly exceptional and flawless remix album. I frankly would have loved even more of that song and more of that remix album in the movie. Of course, that's not the point of the movie, but I was just happy to hear it. Haley Gates, I think, also gives quite a good performance as Charli's tour manager, tour director, who quite quickly comes into conflict with Skarsgård's Johannes due to their conflicting vision. And when you think about this film, like, I wouldn't necessarily compare it to like a true like behind the scenes type unveiling, right? This is not like some eye-opening thing. It's not a true concert film either, of course. It's all fictionalized. So while it may not be pulling back the curtain on Charli XCX in real life, I do think it is making a clear comment on how Charli views the last 2 years of her career and the hard to understand, hard to grasp and place feelings that you might have when something you created, Brat, kind of gets taken away from you or becomes bigger than you. And in this case, again, becomes a lot more mainstream and sanitized than it was ever intended to be when it, came from the creative brain of Charli XCX. I think there's a lot of pretty precise and specific thoughts dispersed in this movie. So it's pretty cool. Frankly, I'd like other artists to try and do stuff like this. This is leagues more successful than The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow from last year, which was incredibly disappointing. And that was multiplied by the fact that it was directed by Trey Edward Schultz, someone we really like as a director. The Moment is directed by someone I'm not familiar with, Aidan Zamiri, who's a Scottish photographer and filmmaker who I think has done a lot of work with musicians like Charli and like FK Twigs and others, but I believe this is his feature film debut, which is pretty cool. So yeah, shout out The Moment. I'm really curious how well this will do at the box office from A24. I also find how close this is coming out to Wuthering Heights and that new album from Charli interesting as well. And, you know, from the singles we've heard from that, it's very different music from Brat or frankly anything Charli's done to this point. So it almost feels like to me like they wanted to release this just in time to be that end note to Brat before her other stuff started coming out. So that is interesting. But yeah, let me know, what'd you think of The Moment? Did you appreciate this film's commentary as much as I did? Let me know. And for more movie reviews and Charli XCX reviews, including the album next week, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.